Good evening, Yorktown. Welcome to the Town Board Work Session Meeting for September 22nd, 2020. I ask that everyone please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
And this is a Zoom meeting, right?
Yes, sir. This is a Zoom meeting. Thank you, Councilman Patel. I pledge allegiance,
To the flag of the United States of America
and to
and
the
to the
republic
republic for
for
which it stands,
one
one
nation,
nation under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. I'd like to, if the board doesn't object, I'd like to, before we have our moment of silence, we have a resolution acknowledging and celebrating the life of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who we all know passed away. And so I'd like to read this resolution prior to the moment of silence. Again, celebrating the life of Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, whereas Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg was a proud New Yorker born on March 15, 1933 in Brooklyn. Whereas Justice Ginsburg graduated first in her class from Cornell University in 1954, married her college sweetheart Martin that same year. Whereas Justice Ginsburg went on to attend Harvard Law School, being one of only 9 female students in a class of 500, and becoming the first female member of the prestigious Harvard Law Review. And whereas Justice Ginsburg transferred to Columbia Law in order to join her husband, where she graduated first in her class in 1959. Whereas Justice Ginsburg went on to win 5 cases before the United States Supreme Court. And whereas President Jimmy Carter appointed her to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia in 1980, and in 1993, she was appointed to the Supreme Court by President Bill Clinton. And whereas at the time, Justice Ginsburg was only the second woman to be named to the Supreme Court following Sandra Day O'Connor, and was the first Jewish woman to serve. And whereas Justice Ginsburg earned a reputation as a trailblazer advocating for gender equality and women's rights, and whereas her notable time on the Supreme Court included ending the all-male enrollment of the Virginia Military Institute with taxpayer dollars, it's the United States v. Virginia in 1996, and Ledbetter versus Goodyear Tire in 2007, in which a woman sued unsuccessfully for back pay to compensate for the years in which she was paid substantially less than junior male colleagues performing the same job. Ultimately, the United States Congress would later address the issue of pay equity by passing the Lilly Ledbetter Fair Pay Act in 2009. And whereas Justice Ginsburg's well-documented friendships with the more conservative members of the court included Justice Sandra Day O'Connor and Justice Antonin Scalia, provide a modern-day reminder of the importance of civility in the present-day political arena. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the town of Yorktown pauses in its deliberation to remember an incredible American, and be it further resolved that the town of Yorktown once again reaffirms its commitment to achieving a free and equal society, and be it further resolved the town of Yorktown applauds Justice Ginsburg for her exemplary years of public service to the United States of America. We have a motion to adopt the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
As an aside, Supervisor, she actually went to high school with my mom. She was 2
Really?
years behind. Yeah, 2 years behind her, but
Wow,
yeah, they were in high school together. They grew up in the same area in Brooklyn.
Oh my.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's absolutely incredible. Well, I'm going to ask us to just bow our heads in a moment of silence as we remember Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I also ask a special prayer for some of our staff members who just within the last 24 hours received some awful news of parents falling ill. And so we pray for them and their families during these difficult times as well. Thank you.
I like to say the prayer for all the 200,500 plus people of all color and all states of the United States. They died in the COVID. They lost their life in the COVID, and I hope and I hope that we all follow the same procedure, just like the town of Yorktown doing it. We are doing a really good job to follow the safety, and we try to make sure that the distance and all that. We should be a role model for the country. I hope and pray. Moment of silence for each and every person for a moment.
And shall we not forget our service members and first responders that are constantly putting their lives on the
Yeah,
line?
they're all in. Yeah, they're yes. I'm with you. Yes.
You know what, Matthew? I think that there was a line in this resolution, which I think was beautiful, which talked about the fact that Justice Ginsburg, and it was Justice Scalia that she was best friends with.
Yep.
And I think that that's how I've lived my life. It doesn't matter politically who you are. It matters that we have a conversation.
Absolutely.
And thank you for that resolution. It was really beautiful.
Well, I just want to
We should
say
have.
thank you to the town board, because I think this board really has done a superb job personifying what I think Justice Ginsburg stood for and Justice Scalia in their relationship. And we may not agree about everything that we discuss, but we always maintain a supreme level of respect for each other. And I know even when we disagree, I still get a morning phone call from Councilman Roker every Wednesday to talk about the town board meeting, even when we disagree. And I love it, and I look forward to them, to be honest with you. And but I think that just shows people that, listen, we can disagree, we can have our disagreements, just be respectful. I think that's missing from this world so much right now. And I think one of the things that I've really enjoyed learning about Justice Ginsburg was her relationship with Justice Scalia. And I think there was a story that I kept hearing on the news, and it was about how Justice Scalia had flowers that he was about to deliver to Justice Ginsburg. And someone said, but what about her vote? And he said, and I don't want to misquote him, but essentially what he said was, there are some things more important than votes and points. And I think that's something that this world really needs to remind itself, especially right now. And I truly want to thank the town board, because I think that I think we are a very diverse board, and I think that politically we may not agree on everything, but we continue to work cooperatively and respectfully together. And I see some of the other municipalities in local government, and maybe they should tune in for a night of one of our town board meetings and see how it's done. So I applaud our entire town board and look forward to continuing that professionalism and respect for each other.
You know, you should have made a comment, or I would have liked to hear from somebody about Justice Scalia's son, what he said in his prayer. I mean, his some kind of a tribute to the our late Supreme Court Justice, the second female justice from New York State.
Yep.
You know, I think
It was really beautiful. Hey,
Yeah,
you know?
well, I'm sorry, Councilman, I don't have that in front of me, so I didn't.
No. I'm just saying it because this has always been on the television and the news, and it's such a beautiful thing to hear and see about the people, what they made the United States what it is today.
Yep, agreed. All right, so we will continue. I apologize, I didn't do introductions. My apologies again. Matt Slater, Town Supervisor, joined by Councilwoman Alice Roker, Councilman Ed Lachterman, Councilman Tom Diana. We have our Town Clerk, Diana Quast, Councilman Vishnu Patel. We have with us our Town Attorney, Adam Rodriguez. And on deck, ready to bat forth, is our Police Chief, Robert Noble. Chief, how you doing?
I'm doing well. Somebody's got a cough there, Ed. Is that you? You better get that checked.
No, it's just allergy.
There is the doggy.
How we doing tonight?
We're doing good, Bobby. We're doing good.
All right.
You and I are up first here, talking about EO 203. I'm going to share my screen if that's okay with everybody. I sent the town board a let's see if I can do this now. I sent the town board earlier this evening a copy of this presentation, so you have it, so you can follow along, or you can just go ahead and follow along here. And let's see how we do. Okay. So as everyone knows, there we go. As everyone knows, we are being mandated by the state of New York per Executive Order 203 to convene a task force. This task force, we're going to call the Yorktown Coalition on Community Safety and Engagement. This is some background for everyone as a reminder. This executive order was signed on June 12th, 2020 by Governor Andrew Cuomo. As a refresher, again, because I think that there's some misinformation out there. Executive orders are basically laws that would apply as a regular law would. And in this case, Executive Order 203 was signed. It requires all local governments with a police agency to perform a comprehensive review of current police force deployments, strategies, policies, procedures, and practices. It also requires that a plan be developed to improve any deficiencies or shortfalls that are recognized or identified during the proceedings. The executive order states that each chief executive of each municipality, so in the case of the town of Yorktown, that would be the town supervisor, is tasked to convene a task force. The only other individual that is specifically identified by the executive order to be on said task force is the chief of police, as well as community stakeholders. So according to Executive 203, the task force is to consult with members of the community, nonprofits, faith-based community groups, local office of the district attorney, and the local public defender's office. And by the way, Chief Noble, feel free to jump in here at any point in time if you have comments to make. Because I know that you've been studying this as well as I have in our staff. Let's see. So the focus of the task force is to review and evaluate the following. So use of force policies, which we'll get into as part of this process. Implicit bias awareness training, de-escalation training and practices, law enforcement assisted diversion programs, restorative justice practices, and community-based outreach and conflict resolution. Again, these are all within EO 203. Before I move forward, I did want to also point out that there was a guidebook that the state had. I got a fancy one all of a sudden, but there was a guidebook that the state had published. Here's a copy of said guidebook. You can find this right online. I also want to make sure that we're clear because I think because again, I say words matter. So guidebook does not equate to regulations. You'll read in executive order that the director of the budget, of the division of the budget, would promulgate regulations which would provide greater clarity or direction. We've contacted the governor's office numerous times. I did finally speak with members of the executive branch as well as our state legislators. Those regulations have not been promulgated. However, at this point, we do not believe that the regulations that are going to be promulgated will provide any greater detail than the current guidebook does. And so from that standpoint, we're going to be relying on the guidebook until we hear or see what those regulations are. We had the lieutenant governor in Yorktown just yesterday. I did have a conversation with some of the staff members who were present, and they felt that we were making the right decision by proceeding, utilizing the guidebook until those regulations were promulgated by the Division of Budget. But again, we don't expect any greater detail than what we currently have. Okay, so this, in my mind, it really comes down to process, which is something that I really want us to focus on. So we are committed, obviously, to an inclusive process. We want to hear from as many people and engage as many people as we can. Yorktown is required to transmit a report and assign certification form to the director of the Division of Budget, that's the New York State Division of Budget, by April 1st, 2021. All meetings are going to take place virtually, obviously, due to COVID. So they're going to be very similar to what you're seeing right now. They're going to be all done via Zoom. They're all going to be open to the public. If you're watching on TV, you're going to be able to watch these coalition meetings on TV. If you're watching on the town's website, we're going to stream them live on the website. The minutes will be recorded for all meetings, thanks to our town clerk, who I've spoken with about this, and her staff, and they will be included as part of the town's final report. And I think the last point here is, of course, the focus of all discussions will be on the town of Yorktown. And this is about reviewing those policies that we talked about earlier, how they're, A, if they're implemented, B, how they're implemented, and if they're not implemented, obviously, how we can make those enhancements. But the chief of police who's with us, I know is going to have a detailed presentation that he's going to be able to educate many of us on what those items were, what they mean from a police standpoint, and how his department is currently implementing them. So here's a timeline that we're looking at. Again, we saw a similar one proposed in the guidebook. So we're currently engaged in task force formation. And then we'll be transitioning over to listening sessions. That'll run into at least November, possibly December, depending on really how it goes, and if we feel we need additional meetings. The draft report and plan will take place. We'll be drafting in mid to end December into January. In January, the public will review the draft report and plan. We will then hold a second round of commenting, hearings in a sense, for public comment on the proposed report and plan. And then the town board of Yorktown would ratify the report and plan and approve its submission to the Division of Budget. Any questions thus far from the board? No? Chief, any comments thus far?
Oh, you're on a roll.
Can I ask them how the Zoom meeting will be, broadcast or, convened? Anybody can participate? How it has to be advertised?
Anybody can, yeah. So these meetings are going to be just like town board meetings, Councilman. Anybody can participate. Anybody can watch them. Anybody can learn from them. For the listening sessions, anybody in the town of Yorktown can participate and provide feedback, which is what we're looking for. We're looking to commence a dialogue, and it's an important dialogue for our community to have, and that's open to any member of the town of Yorktown, any member of the public. And it's going to be broadcast just like this meeting right now is being broadcast. It's going to be on the town's government access channel live. It'll play continuously on loop, as do our town board meetings on the government access channel. It'll also be streamed live on the town website, and where you can watch it again whenever you want on the town website. It'll also be added to the town's YouTube page, because we also house all of our meetings on the town's YouTube page. So anybody would be able to go back and watch any portion of any segment of the task force that they so wish.
So these two or three, the law or whatever you want to call it, is this where the individual citizen can find this copy on a town website or something? And if somebody want to put on some in the writing, this is a good thing, and everybody has a chance to participate, and then town board will, with the help of the police chief and everybody, agreed. Whatever
what we're going to do, Councilman, we'll also create a separate website on the town's website specifically for the coalition on community safety and engagement. We'll house all of the video feeds, saved videos there. Any documentation that we provide, we'll put there, including the guidebook and the executive order. The executive order is actually in the guidebook, but needless to say. And then when we start having, when we have a report, the first draft report, we'll also put that on the website. So this is going to be a very transparent process, a very welcoming process for anybody in the town who wishes to participate. They're going to have ample opportunity, and they're also going to have ample opportunity to learn about their police department, which I think is equally as important, because you're going to be able to get firsthand information from a presentation from the chief of police next month, hopefully, and then that presentation will be preserved. So if you did miss it or you can't watch it, you can go back multiple times and rewatch it.
So is it going to be coffee with the cup?
No,
Chief?
this is not coffee with, this is not
Like
coffee
that.
with cup.
Hey, look,
I'm sure some of us will be drinking coffee, right, Chief?
Like to have some
Yeah.
coffee.
I may need something stronger, but yeah. Hey, Mr. Patel, you want some coffee? We could do that. Absolutely.
I know, I bring the coffee.
There you go. We'll bring our
People love
masks
it.
and we're off and running.
Wonderful.
Lay out the dates of the listening sessions.
Yep, here you go. So this is subject to change. I want to start with that. But this is the initial schedule that we are looking at implementing. We'll have our first work group meeting. It's an introductory work group meeting on Thursday, October 8th at 7:30. The goal there is, again, as I said, an introductory work session meeting and a presentation by Chief Noble as he walks us through each aspect of what the executive order wants us to look at, where the current state of the police department is in regards to each aspect, and that's the first work group meeting. You'll see a listening session on October 15th. Listening sessions are just that. Essentially, we're going to be asking for public input, public feedback, and it's going to be we're asking for the whole gamut. If people had negative experiences, we want to hear it. If people had positive experiences, we want to hear it. And that's just getting that feedback and having that open door and forcing that dialogue is what the listening sessions are all about. And all of that testimony, and I just taking a step back, from my personal experience, I've set up task force for the state of New York on a variety of different issues and topics. So this is very similar to that. So you're going to have people, you're going to have individuals sign up to testify or sign up to share feedback, and they're going to provide that either orally, or if someone does not want to provide feedback orally to the panel, then we're going to set up a vehicle for them to provide written testimony, and they can submit it, and that'll be distributed amongst the panel as well. Again, regardless of the tenor or tone of the feedback. If we want it to be very honest, and we want it to, if I think that we've been very clear, I think the chief and I have been very clear. If there are issues that need to be addressed, we're happy to address them. And so this is our opportunity as a community to have a comprehensive conversation. So we're going to have the listening session on October 15th. We're going to have a second work group meeting on November 12th, and then another listening session November 19th.
What's the difference between the two types of meetings?
So work group meeting would be exactly that. I've spoken with some of the folks who have been engaged in the county, and it's exactly that. It allows the members of the panel to have conversations. We may not need a second work group meeting, to be honest with you, but I thought it was important from a planning perspective to include it.
Absolutely.
And so if the work group feels that, and the panel feels that a second work group meeting isn't needed, then we can easily cancel it and just focus on the listening sessions, and then come back after that November 19th listening session. We can determine if additional listening sessions are needed. If not, then we can begin drafting and drafting the report, which would be done in December. But I think right now our focus is to initiate the work group and kick off the two listening sessions for October and November. And again, those listening sessions are open to any member of the town of Yorktown to say and provide any type of feedback whatsoever that they have about but I just want to make sure we're clear, it's about the Yorktown Police Department. And that's going to be our focus. Our focus is the police department that serves the four walls of Yorktown. Any questions from the board?
So this will be somewhere in a public like, town websites, these dates and everything else. So, or the newspaper, someplace, how somebody can find out. Because everybody don't watch town channel. Some people go in a newspaper,
Yeah,
word
so
of
we're gonna-
mouth.
Correct. So I
So-
was speaking with our town clerk, and we talked about posting this in the town's newspaper so people know about it. We're also going to obviously share it on our social media networks. What's that one? Is there a zoning board meeting on the 15th? Oh, I thought we cleared that. So that's why, again, I say it's subject to change because I just learned that there may be a potential conflict within the board. But this gives you a rough sketch. But Councilman Patel will be advertising this on our website, on our Facebook pages, on our Facebook page, all of our social media channels, so that people know that we're going to be engaging in this. And this way we have as much participation as we can muster.
I agree.
Wonderful.
Yep. And I do once again want to thank Chief Noble for making himself so available and being just a terrific partner and active participant in this. So Chief, again, thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you, Jim.
All right. So we're going to go on to coalition members. So we have received interest from members of the community. We've been talking about this since July, and I want to thank, there's a number of individuals and groups in the town who've really been focused on this. Of course, our friends at Yorktown for Justice, to ensure that we do make sure that the town is in compliance with Executive Order 203. So right now we have Jim Poulin, president of the Yorktown Lions, Rabbi Robbie Weiner of the Yorktown Interfaith Coalition, and Temple Beth Am. Is that right, Chief? Did I forget that?
No, you got it.
Temple Beth Am.
Yep.
Rosemary Panio is chair of the Senior Advisory Committee for the town. We have two citizen representatives, Tony Reynolds and Liz Rivera. Peter Lanza is the vice president of the Yorktown Chamber of Commerce, and Paul Cirillo is our youth representative. And then, of course, and it's noted there with the asterisks, but myself and Chief Noble are through the executive order automatic members of the coalition. And this coalition is incredibly diverse. It is diverse from an age perspective. It is diverse from an ethnicity perspective. It's diverse from a political affiliation perspective. And I think that this really does a good job providing a whole host of backgrounds, and I think it represents the town very, very well. And I'm very excited that these individuals were willing to serve. Both Tony and Liz had reached out to me independently, which was great. I actually received quite a bit of individuals, and I want to thank everyone who did send me an email or contacted my office about serving. I think that this is a very, and I was very, I want to say deliberate in the individuals that that ultimately I decided to put on the coalition. I think that obviously the conversation that we're going to have can be a very, I think, emotional one. And I completely understand why. But I think that these folks here are going to do a great job in making sure that we stay focused on our objective, which is the town of Yorktown, and help cultivate and nurture a very important conversation for our community to have.
So there was some email I just got it not long ago, maybe before the meeting or something. Our former town supervisor, Ilan Gilbert, he say he has his own expertise of knowledge, as a judge and a community residents and all that. He was also requesting to be on this board, but it's not finalized yet, right? Who is going to be on that board?
Well, honestly, Councilman, according to the EO, I think it is finalized. To be fair,
How could be finalized?
If
the
we,
first time I'm
happy to
listening.
explain it to you. Yep,
How-
I'm happy to explain it to you.
Finalized.
So we've been talking about this since July, according to the executive order, and we've had this conversation ourselves. We had it 2 weeks ago as a town board for over an hour about what we were looking for in a panel and individuals or organizations that we wanted to make sure were represented, individuals or types of individuals from the community that we wanted represented. So this isn't something that we haven't been talking about. In fact, we've been talking about it since July, was the first time we had a discussion about EO 203. And so at this point, the coalition members have all accepted to be active. It doesn't mean that people can't participate, because there's ample participation. And I want to move on to our invited community participants. Of course, Yorktown for Justice, Yorktown Alliance for Safe Kids. I've spoken with both the Yorktown Central School District School Superintendent, Dr. Hatter, and Dr. Lyons of the Lakeland Central School District. We've reached out to Hope's Door, who our police department partners with. The Legal Aid Society of Westchester County will be a participant. That's, of course, dictated by EO 203. And the Yorktown PBA. These are just some of the community partners and community participants who are also going to be joining. There's going to be a role for everyone. Everyone's going to have the ability to participate. And again, we are going to be focusing on compliance with Executive Order 203. Chief, anything you want to add?
Well, not to overly simplify it, but, at the end of the day, we all got to start, treating everybody as to how we expect our families, how you would expect a family member to be treated. It's, that's the premise that I've always worked off of. It's worked well in my career. And I think I've got a department full of officers who roll with that and do it quite well. We're all imperfect. We're human. We have bad days. But, from my perspective, nobody wants it more than me than for my community to be safe and for my officers to make it, home at the end of their tour, home safe and in a good mental and physical place. So, like I said, we'll break this down and get it right. But I think if we operate off of that premise with, we all shouldn't argue for the sake of arguing. If we're going to have a disagreement, it should be with the intent to solve a problem or a perceived problem. And, let's not complicate things. Let's be open and understanding of each other's perspectives and let's get it going. I'm hoping that maybe you can beat this March deadline. I've got an accreditation audit coming, a big one in 2021.
Huh.
That is, this is some timing for this, but you know what? There's nothing we can't get done. At the Yorktown Police Department, we'll get it done and we'll come out. We'll be fine. And you know what? The nice part about this is, and I'm a glass half full guy. You guys all know that from being around me, is that I think the data will speak well for us, and people may learn a few things of the good work that we do, and how we pretty much de-escalation is the way we police, and the numbers are going to back that up. There's no getting away from that. So like I said, supervisor and the board, I'd like to thank you guys, for being open with this and just looking out for everybody involved, and we're ready to go.
Chief, are you in charge of the weather too?
I'm in charge of the coffee.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman Patel.
Beth, I think we need to just assure people, and I'm thinking particularly Yorktown for Justice, since they're the ones that really kind of began this discussion with us during the summer, that everything will be open. All of the meetings will be open to provide a question if there are questions or information. I'm thinking that there are probably quite a few people that were not invited to be members of the task force. But I think that what you've just said is that, we'll stay here. We'll listen as long as we can.
I don't think that whether you're on the task force or not, I don't think that determines anything, because what we're going to provide is a very engaging process.
I agree.
anybody and everybody can participate in. It's just going to be up to what level that they want to commit themselves. And we're going to have the listening sessions. We're going to be very open. There's really, we're going to put the final details on what those encounter, but I can say pretty confidently, it's a big table. It's a big table that we've got here. Everyone's going to have a seat. Everyone's going to be able to participate. And we want everyone to participate, because if we're going to do this the right way, it requires a community effort, and it requires everybody to provide their feedback so that we can digest it properly and provide a fair and accurate assessment of what we're supposed to.
Supervisor, I do feel it's extremely important, and I know it's in there, and I just want to reiterate, we're talking about the Yorktown Police Department.
Yeah.
We're not talking about New York City. We're not talking about national. We're very specific. So I think that everyone coming in needs to have that understanding. If we need to look at our force, just like everyone else is supposed to be looking at their force, and know that we only have our circle of influence our sphere of influence that we could alter, and we can't make this a trial for any perceived faults in policing around the country. And I think that's a really, really important aspect to make sure that it goes out when people are coming to speak.
We'll make sure that that's the case, and I think we're going to reemphasize that a number of times during this process. But I also think it's important for people to understand that the panel is really the referees. They're the ones who are going to make sure that they're going to be focused on the town of Yorktown. And I'll be honest, I had people email me, I want to be on because I'm a cop or because I'm a retired cop.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't think that's going to foster the type of conversation that we need right now. I want to hear from them on the other side and provide that feedback of living in this community, and from their standpoint and years in law enforcement and their observations of our police department, what do they think of it? I think that's more helpful to completing the objective. And I think the same can be said for the other side. So I think there's a role for everybody. Everyone's going to have the opportunity to be involved. And I think it's a healthy dialogue that's going to be good for the community at the end of the day.
Just because all of the videos that are coming out with regard to policing are so bad, I can tell you, if I had my phone, I would have done this. If I was in front of Dunkin', I was parked away from the front of Dunkin' Donuts. This person was parked in the fire lane. A police officer drove by, and he got out of his car, and he stood and he waited. And the person came out of Dunkin' Donuts, and she saw him, and she started to scream. He hadn't said a word, and not opened his mouth. And he said to her, I didn't say anything. And she's just screaming her brains out. And I'm standing there going, oh my God, this is just amazing. He's just standing there, and she's parked illegally in the fire zone. He's just standing there. Never said a word to her. Finally, he said, why don't you get in your car and just go? And people in the parking lot cheered him on, because it was probably I could not believe somebody was breaking the law and came out and was forceful. And the cop just standing there looking at the woman, never opened his mouth. And when you say de-escalation, he was trying to de-escalate her by kind of going like this. Finally, he said, why don't you just get in your car and go? And it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen in my life. I just couldn't believe that somebody was doing something wrong and then had the nerve to yell at the cop.
Well, unfortunately, that's an all too familiar thing that happens these days. And like I said, it's the arguments we need to avoid. But I'm so happy to hear that, Councilwoman Rowe. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I'm not surprised. I mean, you hear me, I'm still there, right?
Yep.
You know, you hear me say it all the time that I'm proud of my agency. I mean, look, I enjoy going to work every day, and I can only hope, you know, that rubs off. But I know I enjoy being around the men and women of this agency. They're young, they're a lot of fun. Even the older guys, you know, it's a physically and mentally demanding job. There's no getting around it. You can be helping an elderly person back into bed, and then the next call you're getting, you're running over to a house to stop spouses from beating each other up, and you're arresting somebody. I mean, it's, you know, it's a job, like it's a unique job, and it takes a unique skill set to do it right. And I know we have. I'm proud. Like I said, I'm confident in the men and women that work at the Yorktown Police Department. And, you know, I think this process will work out well, you know, for us. That's the way I'm looking at it. Like I said, you guys say it all the time as a board, and that means a lot, you know, to the men and women who go out there and protect and serve the community. But they're just good people. I mean, they're good, you know, they're good people. They're very good police officers, but, you know, at their core, they're good people. And, you know, you all should know, because you read their bios when you ultimately signed off and hired them. And, you know, since 2005, I've had a major role in who's been coming through the door. So, and in 16, since 2016, I've had the final word as to who comes through the door, you know, and I recommend them to you all.
Very good. Well, this is a good start, I think. Looking forward to getting the process started. Again, I want to thank all the members of the community who've helped us get this far. And I want to thank, of course, the board, the town clerk for volunteering to help us out with the videos and the minutes. And of course, Steve, thank you. Appreciate all your help on this, and looking forward to starting the conversation.
Absolutely. No, thank you all again for your support. You know, it's been a pleasure.
Looking at one of those slides, I think, just to inject one little phrase here, I think that our police department basically follows all those protocols already that we're looking at. You know, you look at the use of physical force, et cetera. I can't remember all of them that were on there, but you know, is there a place where maybe there can tweak a little bit, possibly? But it looks like we follow most of those protocols already, if I'm not mistaken, Chief.
We can all be.
That's no,
that's
we
all
do.
part of.
And like I said, we're still internally, you know, I hope to have it done in October with the updating of our policies, the ones that we've identified that we have maybe tweaked a little bit.
Mhm.
We're still, like I said, working on that, but that's something we can also, you know, we can show the public how thick our general, you know, there's a lot of rules, a lot of policies that that we have to follow. And thankfully, you know, those are the policies are tried and true. They've been, you know, we share them with other jobs that may be looking for a policy, you know, and they'll come to us because, like I said, since 1991, we've been accredited. We've been doing it right for a long time. And like I said, hopefully, I know we will continue to do it right. And if there's any improvements that can be made, we'll sure try.
You know,
You guys do a good job.
I was there in 1991 when the board received its first accreditation. And at that point, they went through all of what you had to do to get there.
Yeah.
And it took a while. And I don't think it's been done since, which is what I'm looking forward to, that the community will have the opportunity to hear, to see the procedures that your department lives by, which I think are, you know, as an accredited agency. In fact, I think the intro to E203 talks about the accreditation standards. I think it said that it hopes that everybody achieves some of those standards.
And can I provide just some clarity there, Councilwoman Roker, because I think there's some misunderstanding within the community, because I think that people need to understand that we were not trying to deny the process based on our accreditation.
Right.
And I've heard that out there, and that's not the fact at all.
Really? No.
Yeah, right. Exactly. We were trying to figure out if fact of the matter is, if they're focused on the accreditation standards, and if we're already accredited, is there? The question again begs itself: is what additional requirements would we have to do since we already have the accreditation in place? And that's what we've been waiting on for that clarity, which again has not been provided. But I just want to make sure we're clear. We were not trying to utilize the accreditation as an excuse, which is the word that's been tossed around, to not engage in this process, because that's not true at all.
You know, if you read the introduction to E203, it talks about a number of things that the government should be looking at. And then it goes into it, and it talks about model policies and guidelines promulgated by the New York State Municipal Police Training Council,
Right.
and standards promulgated by the New York State Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. So it's asking.
Can I just say something now here? Hello?
Yes, Councilman Patel.
Okay. EO203 will be uniform all across the state.
Correct.
Is that the goal?
Yes.
EO 203 is being enforced across New York State by all municipalities with the police force.
Thank you. This is wonderful.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, like I said, we're trying. I think from my
Okay? You have to buy more coffee, okay? That's another thing. Maybe you have to be prepared, because everybody has to have a coffee in all those different counties and towns, okay?
I'm going to put some Sambuca in yours, Councilman Patel. We'll have some fun.
Yeah.
But,
that would be interesting.
So, no, listen, with the
I can't.
So, no, but seriously,
Go ahead, Chief.
with the accreditation, the conversation is like, look, do you want to waste time on things that are already standardized, that are already like DCIS, MPTC? We've met their threshold with some of our policies. Well, yeah. So it's like, I'm not using it as an excuse. I'm just saying that, hey, look, I'm ahead of the game. Our agency, there's only 30% of agencies in New York State that meet this level of professionalism. 156 out of 530 are accredited. We're one of those 156. So, we're in a good place, but, hey, give me the playbook. What does that get me? Does that, I'd rather move on to other areas of concern, or maybe people want to learn something different. And, we're trying to cover a lot of ground in a small time frame. So that's where I was kind of coming from with it.
Yeah.
I
think overall it's going to be a great education opportunity
That's the point.
for a lot of people in this community to understand what exactly you and your officers do on a daily basis. And it's also going to provide an opportunity for us to have a dialogue to make sure that we understand also if there are any instances of deficiencies or ineffectiveness, that we can find ways to improve them. So overall, like you, glass half full, and looking forward to seeing this process through to the finish.
I think that we begin this process as an objective body, but I think if your input in terms of what your department does is invaluable. I remember that night, it was like, oh God, can we finish this soon? But it was important that the community understood what requirements you had to meet in order to be accredited. So I think hopefully you're used to doing a PowerPoint presentation.
I'll learn.
We'll put them together. We'll put it together. It's okay.
Like I said, I am a little bit of a dinosaur. So, yeah.
It's all right. Chief, thanks so much. Appreciate it. Thank you to the town board, and for all those participating, and to our panel. Again, thank you. Looking forward to a great conversation with the entire community. And we'll see.
Stay safe and healthy.
Good night.
Have a nice.
Good night.
All right, next we're going to
Uh,
start talking about park safety enhancements, and we're going to welcome Jim Moderano, the Parks and Rec superintendent. Director superintendent. He's got his fancy headphones on there, and we're joined also by Ellen Bloom from the New York Presbyterian Hudson Valley Hospital Center, right down the street, our community hospital for the town of Yorktown. Ellen, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, it's great. We really do appreciate you joining us tonight. And Jim, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right.
Good evening.
Good evening. And so I know he looks like he's flying a plane.
Yeah.
He'll be landing shortly.
All right. So Jim, Ellen, please, why don't you inform the community of some good news for our parks?
Yeah, absolutely. So not too long ago, you introduced me to Ellen Bloom, and you kind of brokered a relationship between the two of us to take care of our Parks and Rec and keep our constituents safe. As you know, that our town is a vast town, over 37 square miles, and we have over 30 parks in our town. So it's a lot of ground to cover, and we're looking to get hand sanitizers thanks to the help of Ellen and New York Presbyterian.
Well, thank you. And we were really happy that the town came to us. Matt and council members, we can't thank you enough for the work that you've been doing with the town of Yorktown to keep us open and operational and moving smoothly. So for the hospital to be able to do this is really a privilege for us. And we feel it's a very small thing that we can do for the town, but, very meaningful to us. So we thank you for approaching us, and we will assure you that I owe Jim a million apologies for dragging this through. I said NYP certainly, we make things very difficult, but we will have it happen. But it's a privilege, and we want to be able to help keep the community safe. We will fund the hand sanitizers as well as the refills. And I told Jim this won't stop in 2020. We want to continue this in 2021 and for as long as need be for the town.
And Matt, if you oblige me for a moment, I can read off some of the facilities that are going to be by this. 3 tennis courts, Blackberry Woods, Downing Park, Shrub Oak, 1 pickleball court, obviously at Granite Knolls, as we all know, 3 fence basketball courts, Railroad Park, Kensington Woods, Granite Knolls, some standalone basketball courts in Chelsea, Shrub Oak Park, and Fox Den, 3 all-purpose fields, Legacy Field and Granite Knolls, one beach at Sparkle Lake Beach, our skate park, Patriot Park, 2 pools, Brian J. Slave in the Aquatic Center and Junior Lake, 4 classrooms in Al Capolini Community Center, 1 gymnasium and Al Capolini Community Center as well, 14 satellite playgrounds throughout the town, and 10 baseball fields, 2 in each dugout. So we can be happy enough to keep the kids and people safe in our town, keep those hands clean.
Ellen, I was just thinking the basketball courts, but you guys blew the lid off the place, huh?
Well, it'll be great visibility for the hospital. It'll be great support for the community, and we're happy to do this.
Excellent. Well, I can't thank you enough. I'm so happy to hear that this came to fruition. It's fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ellen.
Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Alice.
Can I ask? I have a question. Is this Ellen Bloom at the Hudson Valley used to be the hospital center?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because I was in their board, when the big $200 million was a project over there. Anyway, this is wonderful hand sanitization program. But how do we encourage people to don't throw whatever they don't eat, or the napkin, the mask, anything? Please put it the right place so you protect us. And look at it, at the gazebo, somebody throws some ice cream gel like this. It was there for 4 days, So many bees and mosquitoes, they had such a good time. But then there is a problem, the health problem, and somebody can get stung with the bees and like that. So thank you for at least doing this one, sanitizing, and we should be doing more in our park. Other thing that encourage the people to please don't dump enjoy your lunch, but don't dump it. Those kind of things. Because I just really, they have to understand that we are in a very difficult time here with the virus, and then every additional, but the people throws all over the garbage. Really, it's all around. So Supervisor Grace, Supervisor Slater did something. He wrote something. I think we got to do this thing all the time, telling the people, please, if you see somebody, hey, why don't you help us out? Keep your town clean,
Yes.
And then sanitizing, both will help really. So thank you, HC, NYSP.
Just as an aside there, Councilman, we did meet with our staff, including Jim, members of our R&R team, code enforcement, to talk about making sure that the public garbage cans are being properly monitored. And we did come up with a schedule that allows for that to happen. So there will be more frequent pickups and monitoring of the public garbage cans within the Heights Hamlet, business hamlet, but also our parks, which is great. And then the other thing about parks, which I forgot to mention, I should have led with this tonight, but I did receive a call late last night from our state legislators. Jim, I don't know if I told you this. Actually.
Yeah, you did. Text message today. Thank you.
I did send it to you. Good. The governor signed the legislation allowing for us to sell advertising spaces at Legacy and Granite Knolls on the fences. So we are officially allowed to do that, and all of that money would go towards the turf replacement for both facilities, which is great because we're finding creative ways to raise revenue without raising taxes. But that's another great thing for our parks.
Ellen, we're going to say goodnight to you and thank you very much.
Thank you.
For helping us.
Of course, my pleasure.
Ellen, thank you. Thank you to all at Hudson Valley Hospital.
Thank you. Thank you as always.
Talk to you soon.
Ellen,
Yes.
you have my email, correct?
Yes, I do.
Do me a favor, just email me. I have to arrange to get something dropped off to you, okay?
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
Right.
Have a
Thanks,
good night.
Ellen. Have a great night.
All right, Ellen.
Jim.
Thank you.
And Matt, thank you for brokering both of these deals with the state on the signs as well as the one with the New York Presbyterian. It means a lot. Thank you.
Team effort, buddy. No problem.
Jimmy,
Jim, I have one question.
Hold on, Councilman Patel.
Commissioner first.
A lot
Councilman
of
Bachman
people,
is asking.
they have just 1 second, okay, guys? A lot of people, they put some food and everything else. This is the time, a lot of bees and yellow jackets and all that. Is there anything we can do something to minimize, stinging to the kids, because they throw and they got really burned from the bees,
Yes, we monitor that on a regular basis, Councilman Patel, and we'll continue to do so. Mr. Lockerman?
Yes. Councilman Patel had pointed out to Supervisor Slater and myself about some issues at the gazebo.
Yes.
I spoke to John DeVito, who looked at it. He did order some boards, but there's going to be a lot of work involved. So we just wanted to bring up, as Councilman Patel had pointed out, the disrepair there. John would like to consult with you and get a game plan together. They're willing to do a portion of the work and supply some of the boards. He just ordered them quickly because right now, as you know, the lumber market is crazy.
Yes.
Everything up drastically.
For obvious reasons.
Yes. So everything's up drastically and the weight is immense. But do you have his number?
No, could you text that to me offline?
I will.
And I talked to Barry about that very issue today as well, so it's perfect timing.
Yeah,
Great.
I'll send it over. You can contact him, and he would like to be on the work session. It will be in 3 weeks from tonight to go over plans. So perhaps you and he can arrange to put some time in that. And we could get you onto the agenda.
I would love that.
But can I just? We have to spend our own town's money. Lions has done a really, really good job on a 26 year ago, mahogany floor and beautiful, but town has not maintained at all in last 22 years. One time, just maybe about 7 years ago, the Widow family did a really good job, and in winter time they did really, and then there are 5 Eagle projects were done to fix it up. But town has to really, because it's used by so many people, and it's a really wonderful place for the kids play and all that. Let's keep it safe.
It has been a gem for many years, and I'm sure we plan it to be for many more years to come.
Great.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jim,
And I'll
thanks,
tell
buddy.
you, part of the problem is that pressure treated wood is not only at a premium in price, but you can't get it. It's very difficult. They're just not. They're due to COVID and everything else. The production was way down. So as soon as the truck comes in, it goes right out of the lumber yards again as quick. So
and this flooring is actually a mahogany that he has.
No, the floor, but other railing. But let me just say that, Councilman, both of you just said something. Read the Yorktown News, and Aldo Capellini went to the supervisor, and there was an article that it was falling apart, and something was fixed. We have to do it really to make sure that, everybody is safe. And the bottom and everything else is very barely rotted out. So just only fixing up the floor alone is not very good. Reinforce it and get something, whatever we can make it safe. Okay.
Yeah.
If you can, campaign the truck over there and loudspeaker and everything else. This is less than that truck. Okay, so we should take care of it.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Lachman, you wanted to say something, then we're going to move on to the next item.
Yeah, absolutely. As I said before, that's exactly what John DeVito had said, and that's why he wants to meet with Jim to go over a game plan for all that. So
that'd be great.
I think they'll have that under control.
Done before you were born, guys. Okay.
All right.
Thank
you, Jim. Appreciate it. Have a great night.
Thank you. Take care.
Good night, Jimmy.
All right, we're going to move on to Mr. Tegeter, Director of Planning. John, how are you? And we also, I believe, have with us Mr. McHale, Rich McHale. Rich, you there?
Hello.
Hey, Rich, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Good. We're having a little bit of a hard time seeing with that light behind you, but that's okay.
Okay.
John, you want to talk to us about what Mr. McHale is looking to do?
Sure. So Mr. McHale contacted me via email, and I believe that he is at least, he may be the contract vendor, he may be the owner of the property 401 East Main Street, which is the old bar. It's like Sandbar and Thirsty Whale that is across from the deli in Jefferson Valley. I think the building has been removed. Site is basically vacant except for the remnants of the parking lot. And Mr. McHale is proposing to put on a number of food trucks as a semi-permanent, for lack of a better word, array of food trucks in which you could pull in there, have some parking spaces and some outdoor places to sit and have your choice of some food. I think that's the gist of it, right, Rich?
Yes, that is the gist of it. I am the owner of the property.
Okay.
We removed the building when we bought it about close to, I guess, 10 years ago. And we haven't done much with it. There were several partners. And then recently I sold my shares in my company, and partners ended up, I bought all the partners out of that piece of property. Now I own it outright.
Okay. So that's the basic proposal. The discussion is, how that works. First of all, whether or not the town board is in favor of this kind of use of a commercial site, and if so, how this will work under our zoning code. So in the zone, it's in the country commercial zone. You can do restaurants and quote unquote other places serving food. That's close. It may allow it. But in terms of being a movable entity, the trucks, how that actually works. Now, there are licenses that are given out in order to vend food from a truck, among other things. It's known as a peddler's license. It's covered, I think, in Chapter 19. It's usually done through the clerk's office. That may be a candidate or a necessary requirement, which from that could possibly descend a site plan in which we establish where the trucks go, the number of trucks, how many parking spaces, where you would sit, things of that nature. But I just want to get everybody on the same page and figure out the best way, if at all, that we can attack this. if this is something that the town board
John, do you have that?
a good use of the site.
John, do you have that diagram I sent you, or?
I do, and I can share it if I can share my screen.
Yeah, go. You got it.
I drew this. I'm not an architect. It is
Do you see
dimension.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, so this is basically the property. If you see the entrance, that would be probably, correct me where I go wrong here, Rich, if at all. This would be the existing driveway entrance, so the bar building was probably in this area.
That's correct, yeah.
So he's proposing to put parking along the side that abuts the entry into the Osceola Beach. This would be the driveway up here to that. And then he's showing 4 food trucks along the back with a kind of a cordoned off in some fashion area for tables and places to sit, obviously in the better weather. So that's what he's proposing.
So how far from the water?
From the water?
Yeah.
I think it's several hundred feet from the water.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a whole lot that separates me from the water. Someone else owns it.
Rich, would you have those food trucks? Would they be permanent, or would you get a variety? Would they cycle in and cycle out depending on?
Yeah, that's so. I'm not there yet. I'm not sure if it would be. There would definitely be a variety of food trucks there, and I'm not sure if I would sell them days, because I think a lot of these guys like to move out. They do weddings. Yeah. They do. They may have a commitment somewhere else on the third weekend or something. So I would have to, I think it would have to be per diem, per truck, how I would work that out.
Rich, did you see our presentation at last week's town board meeting?
No, I did not.
So we had a very interesting presentation from Best Food Trucks out in LA. They're interested in partnering with the town to provide exactly what you're talking about. They organize and assign basically food trucks to designated areas. And so they could feasibly, that model would essentially, work for you in a sense. Adam, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I think it might be an efficient way for him to manage this.
Right. He would be able to partner with Best Foods on his own, independently of the town.
Let me ask a question, just for John. John, are we talking zoning question here?
Yes.
I thought so.
Well, you said that the country commercial provided some language that could fall under.
Yeah, well, I clearly think the food truck is a restaurant or another place serving food. Certainly, it's not a building, So, I think we just have to be careful of what the language is and what it provides to do. I brought it forth just to make sure that everyone is able to understand where we are going with this. So it's really an open question that I think I can work on with Adam if you want us to pursue it.
I don't think it hurts to clarify the language to make sure that it clearly fits.
Yeah, and then of course, in terms of whether it needs to be licensed, since it is a movable piece of equipment under 219, I could see that I have a question of whether or not it actually qualifies as a temporary structure, as would a trailer, which is also on wheels.
Right.
So those are the questions that I would like to get worked out.
So, John, can I ask you something? Right now, there are places, they have hot dog trucks and, several places I've seen in a town. Is there any similarity, or it will be completely different?
Okay, first I want to just say I'm going to take the sketch off, if that's okay.
Yep.
Please.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, Vishnu, if you could repeat that.
There are food vendors, like there are something on the Route 6 and, somewhere, in a town and like that, they sell the hot dog or pizza or something like that. So will be different in terms of structure, because it's a mobile. And, if the one person going to be there all the time, or anybody can come different time, whoever they are assigned or whoever they have interest in the business, it's going to be like a mobile business, different kind of trucks coming at a different time, depending on the seasons and like that, or this is just once a week, I think.
Well, Vishnu, these trucks will have to pay Mr. McHale rent.
Exactly. I'm not looking to run the food trucks myself. I'm just looking to provide them space and an adequate dining area for them. And this would be more of a high-end food truck
Do
establishment.
you have any restaurants in that area?
Got like Frankie
On
and
Hill.
Huggies off a hill. You've got the diner off a hill.
No,
Um,
I'm talking.
You have A&S Pork Store.
Right.
And that
No,
that
there's
would
no
that
restaurants over there.
Good.
That for my next thing, where these are planning to be put, I noticed the entrance. Was that where East Main Street is, the entrance?
Yes.
Okay, so directly across the street from that, you have the Big Deli.
That's right.
Brick and mortar place has been there for 100 years.
But is that
and
still?
Alice,
I can't.
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if it's true. Is it in business?
Oh, sure. Yep.
I heard that. I'm sorry. I heard that they closed.
Not
could be
to my,
wrong.
as of last week, it didn't. So anything's possible.
Okay.
To Alice's point, like I say, you have a brick and mortar building there, and you have the food trucks that are going to be coming in and out. How is this going to detract from a business that pays taxes, et cetera, et cetera? Not that Mr. McHale does not pay taxes, but this is their livelihood.
Yeah.
And
So
really-
my answer to that is this isn't like, this wouldn't be like, so a deli, and believe it or not, I work next door. I was in the business that's right next door to that deli, across from that parking lot. It was EnviroCare. So we frequent that deli quite a bit, but it's exactly what it is. It's a deli. You go in there, you get your coffee, these are high. This is like a family going out to have dinner, a family going out or a couple going out. Instead of going to a restaurant, they come here. This is a high-end food establishment. It's not like they're selling coffee and donuts. You're selling things that you normally wouldn't get anywhere else. Maybe in a high-end restaurant. Like there's lobster roll trucks. Like you're not going to get that at a deli.
No.
But right now, what the code says, and I know this because I was the clerk before, was that these trucks must be at least 300 feet from any food establishment. You might want to change the code. So there are a lot of things to be considered here.
Now, is that if it's on a public right-of-way, not on a private property, Alice?
The law is very specific. It says a vehicle that sells food has to be 300 feet from any food establishments. And I know this because when I was clerk, there were a lot of restaurants that were really upset with some of the vendors. And the board wrote into the law that they had to be at least 300 feet away. And I get it that it may be, it's high end and it doesn't offer what the deli does. I don't know that, there's a lot of questions that I think are raised with this.
Sorry, do we know how far you are from that deli?
Well, where the trucks are positioned, it's on the back end of the property, which is, on the widest part is 118 feet. And then it's not directly across the street. It's kind of catty cornered from that lot. So it's probably right. I would say it was probably right at that 250, 300 spot.
Yeah, I mean, it's a laudable concept. I like the idea. I just, I'm just afraid of it hurting a long-established deli that's been there since I was a kid. I mean, that was a long time ago. Don't say anything, Ed. Don't say anything, Ed.
I was gonna say that I heard that you used to lunch there with General Washington when he was.
Tom, how about if I point it out like this? So what else is hurting that is the cosmetic makeup of this property too, right? So,
Yes.
you know, it's kind of dumpy over there. And to be honest with you, there's not much I can do with that lot of land. From what I understand, I can't put a septic system in there. So, you know, this is something where I think you dress up the property. It makes the neighborhood look nice. It draws more people to that area, which gives the deli more exposure. I think if anything, it's going to enhance it.
It's possible. Like I say, it's a laudable concept. I like the idea.
I would also recommend, if anyone has time, they have something on a smaller scale that they're looking to expand down on 9A in Elmsford. Right. It's 9A Food Park and the food truck park. I know, like, they had a chicken and waffles sandwich guy there, and you know they have a few things that go through, but you could see it. It's very similar in the setup. I guess you could talk to some of the local businesses to see if it's been offsetting or not. I know a lot of times, like, if you have business people going to them, like from a business, some people will say, hey, get me this from there, get me this from there, and you know, if you have a few things in the area, it draws in. So there are some good, there's some bad.
It may actually draw business to the deli. Who
Right.
knows? You know, I'm just.
That's my point.
That's what he's saying.
You're not eating at the deli every day. Like we went to A&S. We went when I was conducting business out of that property. The deli wasn't, that wasn't the only place we went. You went to other places, and you want that variety there. There's the hospitals right there. I mean, there's plenty of business to go around. And the reason why I kind of picked this theme is because it was labeled was a country
commercial,
which has food establishments underneath that. So,
I didn't raise the issue to as a negative. I just raised it to allow the other board members to understand there is the law. I tend to think that you're right. This would dress up the area because Jefferson Valley needs a lot dressing up. And certainly in the summer, if we ever open that beach again, you've got a ready-made audience right there.
I think it makes sense. I think we should just make sure between John and Adam that the code, if we want to go make sure the code clarifies, thank you, make sure the code is clear. I also want to take a ride down. John, I think we have to take a ride down to Elmsford for lunch. What do you think?
I want to go.
Elmsford, Dobbs Ferry, Irvington, it's all good.
I want to go.
There's not much in Elmsford to begin with.
Is it Dobbs or Elmsford?
Elmsford is where they have one in 9A. It's right next door to Durante Tool Rentals.
Yeah. So we might have to do a field trip to check it out.
There's
But
a food court down there near that. I didn't realize.
I'm sorry?
There's a food truck park there.
Yeah, it just
Yep,
opened.
right next door.
I'll have to check that out.
Yep.
I thought I was the only one with this idea.
Yeah.
If there's any place to eat, Ed'll know it.
Yeah,
That's it.
we should also have
I didn't like.
John Landy involved in this as well.
Yeah, that's fine. So,
How many country commercial sites do we have in Yorktown?
Well, we have Jefferson Valley, which is, all of the sites along the lake are in country commercial. Then we have some, a handful down on Route 129 in two spots, which is where Jennifer's Restaurant was and across the street.
Right.
The Hilltop gas station, I believe, is over in country commercial on the other side. And then I believe that the Gomer Deli is country commercial. So.
All right.
I also think that we should. I know that Diana Quast, our town clerk, has raised a couple of things in the same realm with me before. So let's make sure that she's included, just from the peddler's permit standpoint, to make sure that they're all in compliance.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You make sure that they've gone to the health department.
Yep.
Yes. Diana, do we have short-term permits, or are they just year-round?
No, we have a year-long permit.
Right, because I know one of the guys in Elmsford was saying they have like a 2-week. So if someone wants to come in for short periods and then rotate out, I don't know if it's worthwhile looking at, because you probably get a little better of a premium for the shorter time.
Could be.
End up getting more in the long run.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. Even with that last fellow that came in last week talking about the food trucks, they rotate them out. So if it's going to be here or there, maybe that's something we also want to work at as a two week. Let's say if Mr. McHale will have 2 week time period or sell a slot for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I would like.
That's up to him and market demand, really.
I would like the others not to get locked into Mr. McHale, because Matt, you had some really good ideas about where the food trucks could go. And I think that having them around town is wonderful.
Yep.
All right, so let's just to wrap it up. So then we're going to have a further conversation with our department heads, with our town clerk, just to make sure that it's all in compliance. And if there's any amendments that we want to make to either the peddler's permit, again, the 2 week versus 1 year, if we want to, phase that, come up with different tiers on that, and make sure that the zoning law properly reflects what we're trying to accomplish, then we can come back and have a further conversation. But I think, Mr. McHale, I think for the most part, I think the town's supportive of food trucks, and as long as it doesn't harm any existing businesses, I think it could enhance the community in that portion of town.
That's my biggest concern, particularly now that with COVID here, that, many of our restaurants are struggling.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to see them go out of business.
Right.
But you do want this new way of life to come in. We're like the old fuddy-duddy. We don't have any food. We have some, hot dog trucks and a pizza truck.
Well, here's the one good thing. I do think that, and keep this in mind, this is a unique thing, right? So people will come from out of town to visit this, right? People come down to Taconic from where I live. I live up in Dutchess, just to do this. So you'll actually draw in more people into the town, exposing other restaurants and food venues. So I don't think it's just going to draw from Jefferson Valley. It's going to draw probably more from afar and people from other towns coming to visit this, knowing that, oh, wow, there's this food truck there. I heard they got this great, lobster roll truck or a Mexican, whatever it is, taco truck. Let's go check it out. And it would be more of a destination than a local spot. So I don't think it's going to hurt local business. If anything, it's going to help it out. I think with the deli across the street, it may help them want to enhance that property, the landlord to make their building more appealing, you know what I mean, and more attractive. And I think it will enlighten the whole area in many ways. That's my pitch.
Matt, if you could count me in on any meetings on this, I'd appreciate it, since it is my background.
You just want to come to lunch.
That's right.
You just want to do the field trip.
Especially if you're buying.
That ain't happening. Forget about Ed buying.
Oh, yeah.
All right, Mr. McHale, thank you. We appreciate it. We'll so we're going to circle back with our department heads and our town clerk. And I mean, this is clearly something that we need to address, not for you and for others. So
yeah, and I think that property is ready to move into get a transformation there. It's been sitting like that too long. So
yeah, be great.
That's true.
All right, John.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
I'm sure I'll hear from John, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. All right, guys. Good night.
Good night.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McHale.
Okay, so we are going to move on to our Climate Smart Community Task Force. John, you're sticking on, right? And we're going to hear from Swarnoff. And we also have with us Bob DeAngelis from the Climate Smart Communities Task Force. And we had an exciting day yesterday, actually. We had Lieutenant Governor in town. I know Councilman Patel, Councilman Lackerman, County Legislator Gashi all joined. As they turned on, sorry?
Assemblyman Byrne was there too.
Assemblyman Byrne, Senator Harcum, as we turned on the state's first, it's a solar and battery storage and EV charging station. They've got, I think, 4 Tesla EV charging stations over by Staples. It was really cool. So, we're continuing to be on the cutting edge of this renewable energy push, which is great. And Swarnoff, you there? We have Swarnoff?
Yes, sir. I'm here. How are you?
Hey, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
We're good. I see we got Bob. Bob, how are you tonight?
Good. How you doing?
Good. So the next step well, first off, why don't we do this? Swarnoff, do you want to give us a quick update on the CSC task force? And I know that we've been talking a lot. You know, I've originally beginning of the year wanted to get us certified as a CSC climate smart community. So you want to give us a quick update on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, obviously, the town, in conjunction with the CSC task force, we're going through the checklist that we have as part of what requirements the town needs to meet for us to be certified. And the reason we decided that this is actually a useful path for us to head down, collectively as a group, is because of the effort NYSERDA, New York State, and all parties that have put together this checklist have really thought through what key changes towns and cities can individually make that actually provide a significant environmental impact, both in the short run and long run. As part of that, obviously, implementing methods to help allow solar get into the town when proposed in a favorable fashion, battery storage, deploying things like community choice aggregation offerings in the town, all the way ranging to food waste and such. So right now the CSC, we've started to aggregate what the town has already done to date.
Yep.
And as of right now, I believe the last tally I had done, and I continue to see where we qualify for points so far on our way to certification. The last time I had done the count, we were hovering around halfway already there, just from where the town has stood in terms of some of the motions and programs we had put in place. But implementing things like the solar law, the battery storage law, and such really are starting to boost us up closer and closer to certification.
Awesome.
As we implement new and favorable things to the town.
Great. Well, we appreciate your leadership on that, and Bob's as well, and the whole task force. Yesterday was a cool thing, and I want to apologize to the members of the task force. We only found out about it late. I think it was late. Was it Friday or Monday? Late Friday, and I apologize for not letting you know that was going on. But it was a very exciting time for the town. Getting a statewide recognition in this particular field was very exciting. I even climbed up with Councilman Patel and Lackerman. We climbed up the roof of Staples and saw all the solar panels that are up there. I mean, it was really cool. So and by the way, the Lieutenant Governor did give us a very big compliment based on our recent passage of the solar and battery storage laws, saying that we're on the cutting edge of the renewable effort, which is great. But I think we're on to another piece here, which is the clean energy community. Is somebody not on mute?
You know what? He's like hanging out over by the shed over there.
Ed, I think you need to turn your sound down off.
All right, I just muted Ed. So anyway, we're looking at this Clean Energy Communities program. It's a NYSERDA program, and Bob, if you want to walk us through this.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about it. It's actually the Climate Smart Communities program we've been working on can be a building block to get us to clean energy communities. But the Clean Energy Communities program, the really wonderful thing about it is you can get a grant of up to $250,000. So the better you are, the better they want you to be, and the more money they'll give. So it's really a wonderful program. And the reason we're particularly interested in it is we really need to do energy audits of our buildings. I'd like to prioritize about 7 of the buildings, but honestly, if they're free, we could probably go a little deeper. Get a good modern energy audit looking at opportunities. First of all, looking at consumption, electric and gas and oil, and then looking for opportunities on how we can improve, including things like heat pumps, solar, installation. There's a lot of new technologies, control systems, et cetera. So this is really a wonderful opportunity for the town And with the work that Matt and others and the town have done, it looks like we're either qualify or very close to qualifying for the program. They have 10 points of effort that they'd like you to submit on. Potentially, if you meet 4 of those, you can become a clean energy community. So I would propose that we try to move ahead and do this because there's significant money available for us to, and to continue to invest in clean technologies.
The key really also, and I want to reemphasize this, we've talked a lot about an energy audit, and we've been really, and Bob's been beating the drum on this ever since we started, and it's been great. No, I'm not complaining. Trust me, it's really important and really important for the town. Unfortunately, as we all know, energy audits could cost money, except we're in a position by becoming a clean energy community where we can get that done for free. And I just think it's a ground ball, quite frankly, because we're going to be able to qualify. I think we qualify. We'll have to fluff up the application a bit, right, Bob?
We'll work on it.
But I think we qualify with the 4. It's another feather in the cap for the town, and then but more importantly, it leads to these other opportunities such as free energy audits, which Bob's been so diligent on and finding these opportunities for us. So we wanted to bring it to the town board and to the public as another step forward in our efforts to be and continue to be, since we already are, but continue to be on the cutting edge of the renewable energy scene here in Yorktown.
And to add a little more information,
for you, Bob, the biggest building in the town is Al Capellini Cultural Community. I think it's an energy guzzler. Winter time, all the windows are open. And summertime, I think this would be really, really good project, and we can start something. Maybe we can get some money in a smaller scale and then finish up that whole building.
Yes, that's one of the largest consumers. The other big consumer, believe it or not, is the wastewater treatment plant.
Oh, yeah.
So those are 2 of the big heavy hitters, but we would want to hit the YCCC, the police station, the courthouse. You know all the buildings. So I was going to say the other thing to keep in mind, if you would for these audits, it probably $25,000.
The smallest project is in the town. Everybody see the town hall. Hey, energy efficient building. That's the nose of the town, So we can start even on a smaller scale over there, and YCC and the police and everywhere else, This is a good start. Very good start.
And I don't know if anyone can hear Bob earlier, but traditionally an energy audit runs about $25,000 for the size that we're looking for. So the fact again that we can apply for this designation, the NYSERDA chairperson was actually in Yorktown yesterday. I told her we were going to apply, and she said, "Well, it sounds like you better because you're doing a lot of good things here." So for us to apply and then qualify for future grants, and then more importantly, Bob, can you explain to everyone about, because I'm sorry, I'm not remembering the email that you had sent, but in regards to the energy audit, that was a prerequisite, right?
Prerequisite for what? What do you?
Was the clean energy community designation a prerequisite for the free audit?
Yes. I'm sorry. Yes. In order to get the free audits, we could get 50% off on the audits from NYSERDA without being a clean energy community, but we get them for free by being a clean energy community. And it also positions us for lots of other grant money for all kinds of energy investments. I mean, the more I read about it, the more excited I get about it. It's really, I wasn't even familiar with it, to tell you the truth, but once I saw it, and with, maybe I just get salivate when I hear about all the money that's available.
Yeah.
So money's what we need to make this stuff happen.
Right.
One of those things, it's a why not. It's not, it's like, let's do it.
Okay. Very good.
Yes. Yesterday, those presentation at the Staples, those guys are, very encouraging us. They listen. The money is there. So, we already have one station. We can make quite a few buildings, started up, and we'll accomplish the goal. Really.
Great.
Well, we pay a lot of money for energy today, so I don't understand why we wouldn't want to do this. I think it's a smart thing to do.
You're right. I mean, the municipality pays hundreds of thousands of dollars between gas and electric. I don't have the exact number, but it's probably $300,000 or $400,000 in that point.
And then we also have, we're going to be re-engaging next week with Sustainable Westchester. We've got some very exciting opportunities with them as we continue our partnership, as well as offering. And I think, Bob, this is one of the things that you were not 100% positive on, but that the community solar opportunities, we're going to be offering that through Sustainable Westchester. And hopefully we're going to be able to announce that next week. So, we're continuing to move all that forward. And I think it only helps the application, makes it stronger, and provides additional opportunities for the town.
Should we start solarizing our own buildings?
We're working on. We're waiting for NYSERDA. Was it NYSERDA, Alice? It was NYSERDA, right? NYPA. Excuse me. It was NYPA. We're waiting for the NYPA analysis to come back. That's also through Sustainable Westchester. So once we have the NYPA analysis, they said preliminarily that we had several buildings that they were very interested in. So I think we're going to see good things out of that as well.
I agree.
So solar is a very good investment, and I actually just installed it on my house. You can't beat the economic.
Can't.
And it's good for the environment.
It is.
It really is a home run. I know you have a system, Matt.
I do, and I know, and Councilman Lachman as well. And hopefully we're going to see more of it in town with some other projects we're working on. But this is great. So we'll have the CSC task force continue with the application process. And I don't mean to put them on the spot, but I'm sure if you have any questions, our friend John Tegeter in the planning department would be more than happy to provide some assistance since they've dealt quite extensively with these types of applications in the past. So feel free to use them as a resource, and we'll get this going.
Perfect.
All right. Any questions from the board? No. Great. Thanks so much, Bob. Thanks, Warnoff. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks for everything you're doing.
Good night.
Appreciate it. Thank you. You too. Thank you. All right. So now we're going to move on to some of our remaining topics. We are joined.
The highway superintendent.
Our highway superintendent, the non-blinking highway superintendent. He's the only highway superintendent in Westchester County who can go all day without blinking.
I have incredible stamina.
We're also joined by our building inspector. We have John Landy with us. We are still joined by John Tegeter. So I want to talk about vacant commercial properties. This is something that Councilwoman Roker, you and I have talked about this quite a bit. I feel, quite frankly, that there are some properties, and I think I speak for a lot of people in this town. I feel that there are some properties that, frankly, have just taken advantage of this community for far too long. And
Yes.
so, I'm sorry?
I said yes.
Yep. And so I think it's time that we put a proposal together to ensure some accountability and transparency on the direction of those properties and where they're currently heading. And so I would like to discuss with the board an idea that we were kicking around of requiring this is just for commercial properties, vacant commercial properties, to report to the town if they are vacant. I think after of a certain size or percentage of the total property, after a certain number of years, 5 years possibly. If you have a 50,000 square foot commercial building that's vacant for more than 5 years, I think we should require some reporting, because our building inspector can tell you, there's inspections that need to be done. There's blight that we need to obviously combat. And we should also, as a town board, I think it fosters a conversation and a dialogue with the property owner if there's something that we can do on our side to help them fill their vacancy. But to have vacant commercial properties for years, it's anti-business. It hurts our business community. I've spoken with the Chamber of Commerce about this. They're going out of their minds, and I don't blame them. But I think it's time that we as a community say we've had enough. If there are vacancies that are, like for instance, A&P held a lease on the Food Emporium for a number of years. Okay, tell us that. Tell us that. The community deserves to know that instead of it just sitting there looking like it's rotting. I just think it's the neighborly thing to do. I think I've had enough, quite frankly. Like I said earlier, I feel like we've been taken advantage of for way too long, and I think it's time we do something about it.
See, I agree, but my tendency is to hit them where it really hurts, and that's in their pocketbook. I have bugged Senator Harcum about certiorieries. And my concern is that there may be companies that specifically leave a property vacant so that they could get their assessments lowered.
Mm-hmm.
And they go in every couple of years to get them lowered when they have no tenants. And what I was asking the senator for was, is there anything that you can do in terms of doing legislation that would only allow a company a certain number of years to claim certiorieries? Because the certiorieries hurt us badly.
Absolutely.
When they don't pay, when their rate of taxation goes down, those taxes come on the residents of Yorktown.
Yep.
And so for me, that's, beside it being a blight on the town, but I must say that I did speak to the people at the Roma building. They are working on another project right now in Pelham. We will have a conversation with them and John next week about where they're going to go from here, but they are coming back to look at that. They are coming back to continue on with their application,
which is great. And again, hopefully, first off, thank you, because I know you and I were having conversations about reaching out to the Roma building to get their application moving once again. And it's an exciting time in Yorktown. But at the same time, I don't want to overlook the fact that we still have some issues. And some of these issues are the vacancies.
No question.
That just really give us a black eye, and especially our downtowns. And if we're talking about trying to ignite a downtown revitalization, there's got to be some skin in the game for these large property owners to be good neighbors. And I agree with you, Alice. I think hitting them where we're right in the pocket is perfect. But I think that we've got to lead up to it. And so I
beat them over the head.
Yeah, no, but I think if they don't comply with the required reporting, I think that we should hit them with a hefty fine. And I think it should be biannual reporting. They have to come in twice a year with the report telling us what's going on with their property. And if they fail to do it, that's where we hit them. And you hit them right in the pocket with a stiff fine.
But can I say something here? The company owned the land, or anybody you own the land any place else, and as long as you are paying the taxes, legally they can do whatever they want.
We know that.
Yeah. And then how can you penalize them? Do you have to change the law or something? But that is not easy to. If they make more money by leaving the building empty, yes, I want them to make sure they keep it clean and pay taxes and everything else. So it's very difficult, Do you remember the guy they say the day before election, the Trader Joe is coming? He's a fake. And it has been done many, many times, just fake announcement in a newspaper just before the election. So you got to figure out if we have a law and then who is the owner and what he wants to do. And if you speak it and the owner say, I don't care, I have plenty of money. I make more money leaving empty. There are people do like that, really. So is there any kind of law we can put it in? If it works, it's good. I want the building, space to be filled. Look at here, the Central, the restaurant. The guy spent $1 million to fix it up, and then something went wrong. And then now the Atlantic Appliance is going to move the new building. How are we going to invite more people, to fill it in,
That's where you have to create a partnership with the landlord to help them fill those vacancies. And that's essentially what we're doing. We're trying to...
No. This is a good beginning. We should welcome them, absolutely,
And that's what we're doing. And that's what we're going to be doing by requiring...
empty
excuse me, Councilman, excuse me. We're fostering a dialogue between
Absolutely, yes.
and the landlords to understand what the situation is. Because when you find out that Kmart's, may still hold the lease on the Kmart building, well, there's not much that can be done. But you need to know,
right.
You need to have that information, I think, publicly available, not just to the town board, but to the residents, because the residents who are calling this community home have a right to know what's happening with these properties that have been vacant, in some cases for over a decade.
Yeah.
That's right.
Years. You know what, man? I would love the idea of bringing in the landlords of each one of the vacant properties and actually showing them a PowerPoint of what their property looks like, what people are seeing, and asking them, and not, and I don't believe in just beating somebody over the head. I think by then, I'm sure a lot of people, may not have seen what their property.
No, I think they know. John and I have met with just about every property owner in town, especially those with vacancies. From Shrub Oak, we right, John? We just met with the folks up there at the Shrub Oak Shopping Center, where that old tire center sits there and looks like, it looks like the old Bailey House from It's a Wonderful Life. But we we have these conversations with them. The good news is that they see some of the things that are happening in Yorktown, and then they are engaged in conversations about, what could possibly be done with their properties. But they know what their property looks like. And also our building inspector and our code enforcer are in constant contact with them regarding blight, because we do have to make sure, for instance, the tire center, Tommy Diana, you were over there. Councilman Diana was there with there was broken glass. The windows were shattered and all kicked in. It looked, it was a significant public health issue and public safety issue, because if someone was trying to get in, they could have easily hurt themselves very badly trying to enter that old tire center. Right, Tommy?
Yeah, John Landy and I and John Teger and I were over there, and I think he's a self-proclaimed manager of the area there, or at least I think he is. Had come down because he saw us all there, wondering what was going on. We say, well, we're here because this has got to stop. Someone could climb in this window and get cut on the glass that's there, cut a vital organ, and bleed out right there. Nobody'd know it until you started to get the smell. So, finally they boarded it up. They had all the doors boarded up, the big doors. Now I see they kicked in the glass on
the glass, yeah.
Doors. So,
and our code enforcer has already been in touch with the landlord to try to have them board that up as well. But that's why I say they know. They absolutely know the state of their property.
Yeah, I'm gonna say that the Oster Realty, I got them to come into a meeting we were doing when we were working on the building, replacing the highway garage. They came in, but no member of the board went to talk to them. I think we bring them in and hear they've been doing over the past 15 years with that one building has been empty. Because when you drive downtown, you can't help but see now that Kmart is empty.
It's just, I can tell you though, John Tegeter and I met with Oster already. We did meet with them actually at the site. They brought us into the old food emporium. Your shopping carts still roll down the aisles without anyone touching them. But they walked us through it, and they claim that they've been trying to get tenants, and they've been trying to rent the places out, and Kmart was still holding the lease of the building, so they couldn't make a move until Kmart's lease expired, and A&P was holding a lease on the building for a number of years, but they couldn't make.
That's 9-year lease.
Excuse me?
A&P had a 99-year lease on Food Emporium.
Right.
But A&P is no longer in business.
I understand, but I think, John, correct me if I'm wrong, they did, while A&P was still in business, they held the Food Emporium lease
hostage, yes.
And they held the building hostage. Now, that's a business decision from their standpoint, but my point is that the community should know. We should know what they're doing instead of these big, it's like a big secret. And all that happens is 14 years goes by and the thing is still empty. And it's just this chronic black eye that we have. So I don't think that it hurts to require, again, some type of reporting, which fosters the dialogue that you've discussed and you've mentioned. And then if they refuse to participate, then our town attorney rolls up his sleeves and gets to get to work and hand out some fines. I mean, I think that it's only fair to the community, but it's got to the point where we have to stand up for ourselves.
But we have to have laws on the book before you tell the town attorney to send out the papers. So let's have some kind of regulations on the town, and then after so many years, just send the letter to the town from the town attorney to the landlord. But if they are paying the taxes, I don't know what other options we have. This is what I heard it. Because you just cannot get up in the morning, hey, I'm going to have that Trader Joe, just, and it will show up in the newspaper, This is the kind of thing happening since more than 10 years, No, I don't know.
I don't think it's a burden.
Does anybody knows what is happening with the Central, the restaurant closed? Does anybody knows what is happening? Was some legal something? Is there anything else? Are they asking us to reduce the assessment? This kind of thing, if you put in a newspaper, people know, that listen, we're trying to do something and this is their own property. Maybe they have some legal problem. Then we can make the, community aware, what is happening. Because sometimes people just lie, hey, I'm going to bring in the business tomorrow. Business don't come it like that because they have to make the profit before they come and they have their expert too. And sometimes they make more money by leaving the empty, and they know how to do this one and we don't.
But they're making money at the expense of this community. That's what they're doing. Let's just be very clear. They're making money by leaving their buildings empty at the expense of this community. And I, for one, I think the community have had enough. And I don't think that, and I think we're talking the same thing, Councilman Patel, because what we're saying is we should know, and the community should know what the status is of these properties. And I don't think that we're doing any, and our town attorney is with us, and he's obviously going to be involved in crafting the actual legislation. But I don't think that it's improper for us to require some type of reporting on these larger commercial properties that are vacant for years.
Because look, what happened with the Mitchell hardware store, I mean, it was run really good, and then the economy changed, the way to do the business changed, and a bigger store came in, so then they cannot support, and then a family issue. But then it takes a while, somebody buy it and invest in the environmental and everything else, and then they want to invest the money. They know return on investment. That's on the first thing they teach in MBA, right? So, there are issues.
I don't think it's asking much as a community for them to come and tell us, hey, here's how we're working on it. Here's what we're doing. Here's the status of it. And I don't think that's unfair to ask. I really
no. I am. I think
and you said it earlier, especially when they're making money at the expense of this community with a vacancy that's just sitting there.
Yeah, and we are paying the penalty as a town, residents. Yeah, that's agree. But is there any way the assessment, department, they always continuously, tell that this much land is been asking, so much reduction, and and communicate with the building owner, or who's supposed to be doing? Is it building assessment people or a town supervisor?
The assessor can't even get into some of these buildings. The building inspector, he's right here, John Landy. John, can you join us for 2 seconds? John, when was the last time you did an inspection over at the Yorktown Green in one of the vacant buildings? Hold on, he's on mute. John.
Yeah.
When was the last time you did an inspection at one of the vacant buildings at the Yorktown Green?
Never.
Thank you.
Never. We were never allowed in.
One of the things other communities are doing, and not necessarily in Westchester, is if the business goes out of business, that they do something like create murals or whatever for the windows, so that it doesn't look like a zombie building. And I know we're going to zombie houses soon, but there are places where they're required not to have all those for sale signs or for rent signs, but rather make it look better than what it does.
Well,
Well,
we do have current sign laws, and we can actually make them cut down on all the signs in those windows.
perfect.
So I'm not really thrilled about having them cover all the windows with murals so we can't see inside the buildings, because that could be dangerous too.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
Okay, John, something else now I ask the town board. Maybe somebody own the land or the building, but then they go by LLC, They don't go real name. They hide everything. This is another problem to find out really who is the own the building or which company and like that. And I don't know, are these kind of the LLCs helping to the local government and the taxpayer,
I mean,
or
like I said, John
strange,
Tegener and I have been able to meet with every major property owner in town who owns commercial properties, and we didn't have to get tripped up by LLCs to get them on the phone or get their emails. So I'm rather confident that we're going to be able to achieve this. I think it's important for the town. I think it's time we start standing up for ourselves a little bit.
Wonderful.
I would like to. I'd like to see the reporting.
John,
Good name. Wonderful.
you are part of an organization that's around a lot. Are there other things that other communities do in Westchester besides letting let's say, the Yorktown Green look like it does?
which John?
John
talking-
Tegener.
Okay.
John.
Well, I don't think there are some things. Basically, it relates, Alice, in my view, to blight, urban blight, community blight. Okay. So, as you know, for instance, White Plains 10, 12, 15 years ago went through their renaissance that they were very active in promoting. That's one thing that they do. I don't know of any Westchester community that has produced a law such as the one we're talking about tonight, but certainly I think that's what it speaks to. A vacant property can certainly, if it's vacant for 10 years and begins to some deterioration, and I don't think it needs to deteriorate too much. I don't think that's the only definition of blight, but certainly a vacant property can be considered a blight and a blighted property. So yes, I think communities around the country have been dealing with blight for decades. We are now in a situation, and I don't mean Yorktown only, but certainly in our region, and I think across the country, where a lot of retail is closing up. And I think there will be this kind of discussion happening across the country, if not already in Westchester. So yes, the answer is yes. There's a lot of ways to approach it. This may be one of them. This may be a stepping stone to dealing with that kind of thing. So
similar to attractive nuisance, right, John? I mean, where we could call that attractive nuisance, kids trying to get in, or people, I shouldn't even just say kids, people trying to break into these places, such as the tire place in the Shrub Oak Shopping Center.
Right.
That's that. What's that, Alice?
What are we gonna do?
I'm going to have if we're all on board, then I'm going to have the town attorney draft legislation, and we can bring it back, and we can either bring it back next week to refer it out. Or we can go to the next work session to review it and then refer it out. I'm fine either way.
And as far as certiaries, sorry, Ed. Go ahead, Ed.
Well, I think you might have been about to say the same thing. We should look at them having a report. I think you spoke also about fining them if they don't come in with the report.
Yep.
If they do dates and hitting the pocketbook, as Alice pointed out, was important. And I think Tom was just about to say the same thing I wanted to say was, you put something in there that you can't don't bother coming before us for a certiorari, because if you're not doing what's needed to maintain that property and rent it, that's on you. We're not going to lower the tax.
That's the state. You have nothing to do with certioraries.
We can't. Well, don't we have to approve it?
No, New York State is it. All of it goes while we have a local certiorari board. All of what they do has to do with New York State, not anything that we do, and that's the shame, because New York State is not in these individual communities to see the kind of blight we have to deal with.
Right.
Well,
And their assessment just has to be raised.
That's why I called. That's why I've asked Peter to look at.
Maybe we could get Assemblyman Byrne involved as well. Have them.
Well, part of that is business, and I'm going to call him again tomorrow. But I think that other communities are just as
frustrated.
It's not Yorktown centric. It's not Yorktown specific.
No.
But I think it's time we take some steps to like I said, stand up for ourselves. And,
Yeah.
I mean, listen, what we can do is this. I think we're going to, we'll direct our town attorney to put it into legislative form. I'll have a conversation with our assessor to see if she has any thoughts or ideas, tools that we might be able to throw out there as well as our building inspector. But I know he's focused on those inspections. And then we'll come back and we'll have another conversation about it.
Sounds good.
But the surgery is for homeowner is different, and a commercials they are getting by murder, and homeowners are not. So we cannot change the law because the state control the property value reduction, and homeowners, I don't know. We unless the home, the guy doesn't pay the taxes and just let it go zombie home, and then he maybe die or move or something, and then end up back taxes, just like every year we are ending up something more money in the back taxes, and then economy goes bad and something at the end, we lose some money, the town at the end, if you don't wake up right away, because so many times you write it down $1 million, the taxes are not paid, So this year we have 4.5, almost like a $5 million. We should make sure that, continuously we are on top of that, because taxes are mandatory, not a volunteer contribution.
Right. Thank you, Councilman Patel. Why don't you mentioned the word zombie, so let's go and talk zombies. Councilman Diana, the show is yours.
How come when you talk zombie, you say Councilman Diana? I mean, come on. It's almost Halloween, I know, but I mean, this has been that has been bothering me riding around the town and seeing a lot of these, and this goes homes. This isn't for commercial at this point. Of course, some of the zombie law may dovetail into the commercial end of it. And I had our building inspector had charged the code enforcement officer Jason to reach to a couple municipalities. One was Sparta, New Jersey. The other one I think was Oyster Bay, if I'm not mistaken.
Mm-hmm.
Did John go off? I think
John Landy's right here.
Oh, he is.
John, what was it? It was Oyster Bay down on the island, right?
Yeah, I had it here in front of me. Yeah,
Yes.
Township, Florida, and Oyster Bay down on the island. And just to get a compass on what those two townships were doing in as far as their zombie homes, so that let's say, Matt, you have one probably 100 feet from your front door.
I wake up every morning, I look out the
one.
window, and I'm looking at one of them. And Alice lives next to one of them. So
yeah. So it's to the point. No, those are just two that we can think of right off the top of our heads, including the one over here in Shrub Oak, the Shrub Oak Shopping Center. That's, as far as I'm concerned, a zombie. It's dwelling, zombie commercial piece of property. Thank God the Getty station over here is finally moving forward, right, John? We finally got that.
Yes.
That's moving forward, and hopefully we'll see some progress there relatively quickly. But you run around and you see these homes, and they need to be identified. We need to find out who in all actuality owns them. In an estate, is it the bank? Is it still the person who owes taxes and just left and went somewhere? And we're going to have to start either finding these people to maintain and upkeep these residences, so that it's not a blight on the neighborhood. You go to sell your house and you got this other thing next door to you. It looks like, Herman Munster's house, God forbid. And you value your neighborhood goes down. So I know that the the enforcement officer had come up with several additions to what he wanted to see in the legislations. And you'd have to read all through the two legislations that are there and kind of massage them to fit our criteria. One thing was all vacant and or abandoned properties need to be registered by the mortgage company or bank within 30 days. An annual fee should be required, and perhaps the fee should increase annually for as long as the property is vacant. And that all vacant and abandoned properties should be maintained according to town code and or New York State property maintenance code requirements. A civil penalty can be imposed for as long as the property remains in violation. The town code officer will calculate the fine. Any grievances can be made to the town board. And here, I believe in establishing a new code addressing these abandoned properties and creating civil fines will make it much easier for enforcement purposes, which is true, because if they have to register them, now at least we're able to serve, the bank or lawyer or person who represents these homes and or people. And I had actually had Jason send it to Adam and to John. I know John Landy already had it, and to let them take a look at it. And I know Adam has had some time now to peruse both legislations from the two townships and see if we can kind of make these work in the town of Yorktown, massage them to work in the town of Yorktown.
All right, can I just say something, Councilman?
Certainly.
This is the great things to do. But about 8 years ago, somebody told me, because of the, either is the person who is living it either sick or a health problem or a family problem or whatever, and they say, oh, you cannot just send them a letter to pay the taxes, either he has a cancer or something, whatever, reason. So he's falling up behind paying the tax, and I tell us the property is going down. So I agree with you that, we should maintain it because, it affects your property or a neighbor's property or something like that. But if somebody is really at the end of the journey, what do you think should be done? That person says, oh, don't worry about that. Let the tax back, and then in the end, the town taxpayer are penalized, So this idea of zombie maintaining is really, really good idea. And I think we should be very proactive.
We are not, we are not heartless individuals on the town board. And, God only knows that probably each and every one of us has had somebody who has fallen ill and had to, take care of them and or their home. So, a dialogue between them and the town and or town attorney to determine what can be done. And if God forbid the person does indeed pass away, then it falls onto the estate, at which time if the people in the estate hopefully will put it up for sale. They don't put it up for sale no matter what. At the very end, we can't, let me put it to you this way, we can't overburden our Parks and Rec department to go in and care of these places, but we can contract to have a landscape company possibly go in, keep it pruned and trimmed, and so it doesn't look like it's terrible. If it needs to be boarded, we can hire people to do that, and at the sale of that property, it's lien for what is owed to the town of Yorktown first.
Yeah, because only 2 years, if you don't pay the taxes and after the taxes, build up, then the value of the property is less than whatever. But the individual person either passed away or left, and the children far away these days, they say this is between the two families, they don't talk and all that. And all these things sometimes really creates a burden for the town, because of the zombie situation, and then a neighborhood also complain. And then if we do not act it, within a few years or something, we are the one who lose the tax revenue. And in the end, if you wipe it out the lanes, everybody else pay for it. So we should be very mindful that, we almost nearly $5 million in back taxes now. Supervisor Slater, can you use a couple $1 million in the town? Yes.
bet I
So we
can. You bet
All
I
right.
can.
Thank
No,
you,
I think the zombie registry, Councilman Diana, is a really good idea. I think that it would help our building inspector and our building department, our code enforcer, to identify exactly where these zombie properties are. I think there's a difference between, I've seen them too. You've got zombie properties, and then you've got properties that individuals wait to pay their taxes on. They like wait a certain amount of time and they drop it in, but they're not there. I mean, that's I can tell you that firsthand because they're never at that residence and they don't maintain that residence, and so it looks like a again, going back to that word of blight. I mean, it really does become a public nuisance. So, but I think it's a good step in the right direction. I think the code enforcer put together a good idea. He also had a sliding scale based on how many years they're on the registry for. So the longer they're on the registry for, the more the cost to the town, I think, which would be good. So I think it makes sense.
I know it would help my department because it would cut down on man hours trying to track these places down. Because sometimes we spend weeks trying to find who owns these properties because it's corporation after corporation after corporation, and we can't get to them. And they're in Texas, they're in California, they're in Las Vegas, they're all over the place, and it's very tough for us to, first of all, get them to come out and maintain these properties or bring them to court. So it would definitely cut down on a lot of man hours.
Good.
Yeah, that's kind of why we have the exactly, John, and to your point, that's why we have the in rem and so on and so forth. A certain amount of time, and then we can take it in rem, we sell it, we get our tax dollars. To Councilman Patel's point, but as for the zombie population, Adam, have you had a chance to review that and have any comments on that?
Yeah, comments. I mean, I think both codes have certain aspects of them that might want to incorporate. So I'm happy to sort of do a blending and provide the board with a roadmap for a proposed legislation.
All right, that sounds good. I mean, just like high law, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, allows you to cut trees down that could injure wires and or other things, correct, Dave? And then back charge the people through their taxes or however we would go about doing that.
Yes, under highway law, anything we deem a threat to the road traveling public, we can either request that they remove a tree. If they don't remove it, we could then remove it and back bill them.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, I mean, we could.
Yeah, I think we should have that.
That would be something that we could put into this law also. And, any maintenance that we need to do on the house, be it boarding it up, etc., that would be back charged to the estate, the person, the bank, whoever might own it. Matter of fact, there was one on Cedar Lane going back about 7 years ago. There was an A-frame there that was burned out that was, once again, a blight on that condo project that sits in the back there. And we were able to get that finally torn down. It was kind of like the hole in front of the Roma thing. I mean, I worked hard on that one to get that squared away so that myself and Mike McDermott to have that then, and that finally worked out for us so far. So anyway, that's my report on the zombie homes at this point. Zombie legislation, I'd like to see us move forward on that if the rest of the
board Adam, if you could go and if you can work with John Landy and John Taggart and Jason Zeif, our code enforcer, and if you want to blend those two ordinances that were sent to us, and we can come back at the next work session as a follow-up to review and then determine next steps.
Sure.
Yeah, Adam, if I may, just to make sure you're cognizant of the fact that some of these get tied up in probate due to someone dying in intestate. So, yeah.
Right. That's why I said about the, it becomes part of the estate.
Right.
So and then the estate would have to be, if we ended up having to do maintenance there or boarding or whatever the case may be.
Right.
And then, of course, pay the back tax.
Well, we always remember we can always treat things on a case by case basis. We don't have to blanket everything.
Right.
Right.
Evaluate each situation as they arise and determine what we need to do.
I agree, John.
Yep, that sounds like a good idea.
Yep.
All right, very good. So then that's what we'll do. We'll move forward with that and then come back at our next work session with drafts for the board to discuss both for the vacant commercial properties and for the zombie properties.
And
Good.
they
Thank
send
you.
it to us before we have the meeting so we could at least look at it before we meet.
Yes, Adam, would you be able to email that out prior to the meeting so the board members can read it?
Sure.
Thank you. Okay.
He's a man of few words tonight.
Yeah, you can tell he's a lawyer. He doesn't say much. So we're gonna move over to our final item on the agenda, which is the master fee schedule. This is something that we've discussed a couple times, and we have our town attorney Adam Rodriguez, our building inspector John Landy, and our highway superintendent Dave Paganelli. I understand that we have specifics that you wanted to bring to the board tonight, so that we can then next step would be turning it into legislation to update. John?
Yeah, I definitely, as I've been talking to the board for since I've actually started here, that the fee schedule is a little lopsided and a little, I believe, unfair. I've tried to come up with something that's a little more balanced, a little more in line with all the towns around us, and just make it easier on everybody. Did the board get a copy of it, Matt? Do you know?
No.
I have not been provided a copy, no.
No, and it's really hard to talk about something like this without seeing it.
Yeah, we have not been provided with a copy.
Okay, John, you, Mr. Landy, the aim is to reduce it total number of the fee or increase it. That's the question number. Okay.
Certain areas that would be major reduced.
Average. Okay.
Certain areas that would be increased to be more in line with the areas around us. And mostly the increases are in the commercial areas because the residents are paying basically the same price a commercial property is to renovate, which in my opinion is not fair to the resident. And, these commercial properties, they're paying nothing. They're basically paying nothing to rebuild these. To rebuild these, which a lot of them are doing right now. So,
what do you have for us, John? Can you walk us through specifics, please?
You every item or just certain?
Yeah, no, we don't have it. So every item, if you don't mind.
All right. Well, I'll start with. Let me start with. Copies. Well, right now copies are $25 a page. I mean, 25 cents a page. 25 cents a page. And what's happening is all these sales of the houses in Yorktown, these title companies are coming to us and they're inundating us with these title searches and copies for COs. And so 8.5 by 11 standard legal copies. I want to go from 25 cents a copy to $1. It's costing me a lot more than 25 cents a page to make a copy. Not only in man time, but the copier rental fees, ink, paper. No, I don't think anybody's taken any of that into account. So I wanted to move that up to $1 a page.
The whole town would have to go to $1 a page because the fee for the entire town is 25 cents.
Well, I mean, that's what I'm suggesting because we have to pay for copiers, rental of copiers, all the ink, all the paper, and man hours to do the work. So
Okay, can I ask something, John? May I stop you here? Is there any way to send a disk or thumb drive to give all the copies? Is it acceptable instead of having a hard copy?
Yes.
That's another question.
I can email it to them at free of charge.
Not email. Email is very difficult, but you can give like a hard copy. Just directly download and then give them. That will cost less money, and we can still charge 50 cents or 75 or $1, whatever you want to do.
Absolutely, I can put it on.
Depending on how much money you bring in.
If they give me a
besides
disc
the copies, are there other items that you feel are not in compliance regionally?
Yes, the new construction for a single family house. Okay. You have a lot of areas that are charging a lot more than $1.75 a square foot for a new house. We're charging $1.75 a square foot. So I wanted to increase that 25 cents to $2 a square foot, which again is more in line to the area.
You're saying other communities charge that?
Other communities charge more than that. They're charging $2.50.
Okay, all right.
Don, do you have specifics on which communities are charging that?
I do have a list in my office. I just have I thought everybody was getting a copy of this, and they didn't. So I didn't bring it with me, but I can get you that. Yes, I can give you a complete list of. I know we looked at Somers, we looked at Mayapack, we looked at Putt Valley, we looked at all the communities that touch our town. So,
all right. So, what else do you have?
New construction commercial. Right now we're charging $2. I want to go to $2.75 for a new building to be built, a commercial building. New construction interior renovations go from $1 a square foot to $1.50. To renovate a house, a residential house in our town, is $1 a square foot, same amount of money.
Wow.
That's insane.
And you have that comparison regionally with other communities?
Yes, that's what we did it. I did it by most towns that are touching us. Newcastle, like I said, Somers, Putnam Valley. I know those are Putnam Valley and Carmel and Mayapack are Putnam County, but they're still touching our community. They're still
I get you.
Yeah.
Fees that are going to go down.
Right. Well, that's what I wanted to know. Where are we going? Where are we reducing fees?
Okay, I'm getting to that one right now. Right now, the minimum cost for a permit in our town is $300 for residential construction. Any type of construction. The minimal permit fee, you come into my office, I have to charge you $300. That's insane. I want to reduce the minimum to $100 on construction and stay at cost of construction for mechanical, plumbing, things of that nature. So just a straight building permit, I want to take it from 300 to 100. That's a big reduction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
So how are you going to balance the budget?
I'm sorry?
He's asking about what does that mean about balancing the budget?
Your department,
we are increasing the renovation costs by a little bit. I mean, they're not major amounts, but we are increasing the interior renovations from $1 to $1.25. We're increasing commercial from $2 to $2.75. We would increase new construction interior renovation for commercial from $1 to $1.50, which it's booming right now in our town. Well, I know we have a lot of empty stores, but a lot of places that are there are renovated. So we would increase by that amount and just by efficiency of getting the permits that are required. We are making sure that everybody is getting a permit that is required. We are no longer allowing people to do things without permits. I have every inspector that's out there looking. So you build a fence, you're caught.
John, here's a question I have. What you had mentioned $100 permits. Now, what would that be for?
Any building permit. any building permit. It's like if you came in to me right now and you wanted to put in a gas fireplace in your house.
Right.
Right now, I would have to charge you $300.
Okay.
That's insane. In my
So in
opinion.
other words, for appliances such as that and boilers and water heaters, so it would be a straight $100 permit.
Not boilers. Boilers will go under mechanical, and they're going to be based on cost of construction, cost of the unit, cost of the installation.
Yeah, there's some discrepancies from town to town. Like I know there's other towns that charge less for, tanks and boilers and water heaters and so on and so forth like that. It's a straight fee,
Right.
and there is no administrative fee added on to that.
And that's
So-
what I would like to eliminate, the administrative fees for the mechanicals, plumbings, electricals, things of that nature. There's no need.
Okay. No.
So, we're going to do balances here.
Sounds good.
Have you spoken to the comptroller about it so we have an understanding of when you plug in those numbers based on the number of permits per year that you're averaging? We know what the projected revenue is going to be.
I have talked to Pat about the changing of the fees, but we haven't gotten to that depth of it.
All right. I think before we do anything, that conversation has to be had. Only because I know we're skating on thin ice with budgetarily right now, with everything going on. So let's make sure that we have a full understanding of the scope and what that means for our revenue for next year before we start blindly changing fees without understanding what the full impact is going to be.
I'm not really blindly changing them. I really do believe that my revenue line will hold steady or increase.
That's no, that's fine, John. I just think that we should make sure we should just do our homework with Pat and plug those numbers in, and we can run the reports based on how many of those permits you've issued over the last 2 years and get a sense as to what the new fee structure would produce.
Well, yes, and I also want to get in there like gas test fees, installing oil tanks, removing oil tanks. We never had them. Never had them.
What do you mean you never had them?
We don't have that in our fee schedules. Nobody ever charged or nobody ever put in had a oil tank removal permit.
Tommy, do you
That's
have
almost illegal.
Well, let's ask the in-house oil guy. Tommy, what do you think?
I file. I file just like anybody else does.
Right. But there's no fee? But there's no fee?
There's we charge them. We charge them based on permit fee. Permit fee.
Right.
Because
It's
I have
$100 in, $100 out, and $135 administration fee, right?
correct. 100. They got to get it onto the fee schedule because I'm just charging them off the fees, just a basic fee schedule price.
I guess.
charge them for this? Does that mean that a building inspector is going to come to someone's home?
Yes, we send them out.
Okay.
I've been sending them out, and not only that, I've been getting the scrap tickets, which is by law I have to have. Manifests by law I have to have. Tell me if I'm wrong, Tom.
The manifest I don't know about. But the scrap ticket, you scrap the tank properly and so forth. Yes.
If there's a spill, I need a DEC number. I need to know that it was cleaned up. We never did that. We never.
John, can I say something here?
What they do in the town of Portland is they send somebody out when you pull the tank. You cannot pull the tank until such time as there's an inspector there. Then you pull the tank. He sees there's no spill in the ground. You take your samples and you go. It's just like putting a boiler in or water heater.
Okay.
They come out and do a pre-inspection. They see where it's going, how it's going, so on and so forth, to make sure that you're not in violation of anything else before you start.
Because that's what we do. We do that also. We're there when they pull the tank, so we can see if there's any holes in the tank, if there's any leakage in the ground. So we're checking to make sure that they follow New York State law.
Yeah, and it works out well. Where it doesn't work out well is like on Saturdays and Sunday, and you have the guy that just goes out, rents a backhoe, pulls the thing, and I think where John is going to make more money with a set fee for certain things is that people will be more amiable to going and getting a permit than trying to shirk it, because the permits get quite expensive. You go to do a boiler, you're probably somewhere between, now correct me, I could be off a little bit, somewhere between $600 and $800 in permits. And by the time you get your electrician in there and your plumber to hook up the potable water, and for those permits, because there's not just one permit to put in a boiler.
No, there's actually three.
Right.
There's actually going to be, well, now I'm cutting it down to two, Tom, because I'm changing it to a mechanical. So on the mechanical, you're going to have, and I'm also going to create a generator permit. So,
that's a good one.
Yeah, because it's getting confusing to people.
Yeah. What do you mean, like the generator that goes on automatically?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Right now, they used to do them under building permits, electrical permits, plumbing permits. It was so convoluted and confusing.
Okay.
Then I tried to straighten it out by putting it on mechanical permits, and it's still a little confusing to people. So I'm going to create its own generator permit. So people just fill out one piece of paper, and the electrical always going to have an electrical permit, always. So they're going to fill out the one and done, and it's going to streamline it, make it easy for them. One person fills out the form, and they're done. The cost is going to be based, if the town board approves it, based upon the cost of the construction or the installation of the generator. Same with mechanicals, Tom. The boilers, it would be based upon the cost of the boiler, which it's going to average. What I'm seeing based upon the numbers is going to be about $150 to $225.
So is it a percentage of what the person pays?
Yes.
Okay.
It's based on the cost of percentage.
Okay.
Okay, I have another question, Mr. Landy. Somebody, the guy who is a handyman, he can do whatever he wants inside. Does he need a permit? Because, he's not going to come over there.
Well, it depends on what he's doing. That's a very general statement, so it's very hard to answer that question. Are they doing a boiler?
No.
Yes. Are they doing construction in their house? Yes. Depending on the construction they're doing. If they're painting, no. If they're putting in a floor, no.
Painting?
You don't need
Can you imagine that, Councilwoman Roker?
No, I just had a painter. No.
I'm saying no. I'm saying if you're a handyman and you're painting or you're putting floors in or you're doing things like that nature, no, nobody needs a permit for that. But if you're taking a wall down, installing doors, things of that nature, opening openings to install doors, yes, you'll need a permit, whether you're a handyman or not. You cannot touch electrical. You cannot touch plumbing. I don't care, unless you're a licensed electrician or plumber, whether it's your home or not, you're still not allowed to touch it.
So, John,
can I say electrician, you hire the guy, and do I have to come and get somebody has to come and get a permit, or the electrician can get the permit and you just write only the one check?
The electrician has to get the permit himself. He has to plus his license and his insurances.
Can I make a suggestion, Matthew?
Yes, ma'am.
John, I first want to tell you that I appreciate what you're doing. But would you be able to send us the information you have? And whenever we are going to do whatever we do, would you be able to, and I know if you're a dinosaur like me, unlike Diana, you just share the screen and just put it up what things are going from and going to be. TV is a visual medium, so I just tend to think people like to see what we're talking about while we're talking about it.
Well, I would love to do that. Someone's going to have to help me do that because I don't know how to do that.
We will get you there, but if we can also just make sure that you talk with Pat before, I just wanted to review it one more time with our finance team.
I agree.
So that they, again, and that should be part of the final presentation, is seeing what the projected revenue would be based on the change in the fee schedule, and then comparing what the projected revenue would be with the proposals versus what it's been traditionally. This way, the board can make the best decision that it can, and we understand what the impact, if any, would be on the budget.
Sounds like a plan.
Are we doing a lot of renovations?
I'm sorry.
Are we doing a lot of renovations in the town?
We are inundated.
Yeah,
everybody's saying everybody's home and everybody wants to do something around their house, and we are going crazy. I mean, crazy.
That's a good thing. The person's home is going to look better, and you're making money.
Yep.
Well, it's not that because remember, we have costs.
Yeah.
The more that permits come in, the more costs we incur with inspections and.
But you are a service industry.
Right. Right. Thank you.
We are.
All right.
To make sure the town.
Yep. Thank you, John. We have Dave Paganelli with us. Dave, I know that you had proposed changes to your fee schedule as well.
I have indeed. Actually, the fact of the matter is I've made changes to my fee schedule, unaware of the fact that it didn't correspond with the master fee schedule. I did at that time reach out to the town attorney, provided him with my changes, and unfortunately, I'm not prepared to share them at this point because had I not picked up on the fact that this was being discussed tonight, you can notice on the agenda my name is not underneath it. So,
my fault.
You know, that's okay, no big deal. But I'm home and I don't have my fees with me. I'll say this: all of my fees are going up. They have been up. I'll give you a prime example. 7 years ago, Con Edison and Cablevision were paying $5,000 each for an annual permit under a specific amount of disturbance. All right, those fees are now up to $20,000 a piece. What we're looking for is an addition to all our fees, and the reason being that, unfortunately, we're increasing as well the amount of cash bond that's put up because we're noticing more and more that contractors are not restoring our roads correctly when they're either hooking up water or they're hooking up the sewer, they're hooking up gas, whatever the case may be. So we have to often go out and do it, and we figure it out what our cost associated with these repairs is when you do a full cut across one of our roads. And it's the better part of $2,400 for us to send our people out and take care of that for a day, you know, between running to the plant and the time involved to get asphalt, saw cutting it, making sure everything is done correctly, tamping it. So yes, what I'll do is I will actually send out a list to all of you regarding showing exactly what the fees are, and because it's been so long that they've been changed that I don't even remember what they were. I was just changing them as I went along.
There's an old, Diana, do you have the old master fee schedule that you have of old fees?
Yeah, that might be probably the best way to go.
Okay.
Yes, if you like, I'll put that together compared to the last time the master fee schedule was changed.
That'd be great.
Okay, super. Okay, I actually signed on more for the final retention payment on the Mohegan Avenue wall.
Which we will get to right now, Dave. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
With no other business, we're going to go on to resolutions. I just want to make sure I have the right one here. We already did the one for Justice Ginsburg. So the only other business for the board is the following. It's a resolution from the Finance Department. Therefore, be it resolved that retainage in the amount of $46,626.46 is hereby released to Remus Industries, LLC. Again, this is the final payment for the Mohegan Ave retaining wall project.
Motion.
Second.
Favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion.
Thank you, Dave.
Aye. Are you going to
thank you guys.
I'm sorry. What's that, Councilwoman Rover?
The resignation.
Oh, thank you. And also, we thank you for reminding me. We're going to also make a motion to accept the resignation of Jennifer O'Neill, the director of the John C. Hart Library.
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, and we wish Jennifer all the best as she
Yeah.
moves on to a new opportunity.
Yes.
And with no other business before the board, we'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Have a
Good night,
great night, Yorktown. Wear a mask.
Good night, all.
Good night.